Good evening, David Michael Smingy, and I'm still here. So, thank you all for being patient with me and praying for us and being a part of our lives and sending me emails and sending me encouragement and cards and gifts and things. And I really appreciate it, and I know Britta appreciates it too. So, I think when I left you guys, we were debating between doing chemotherapy or radiation and chemotherapy, evidence supporting both of them, evidence in favor of radiation and chemo in terms of length of study, how much has been studied, versus kind of relatively new evidence suggesting that chemotherapy alone for Britta's particular brain tumor, down to its molecular pathology, not every brain tumor, chemotherapy probably one of the better answers. We had a long discussion with Britta's neuro-oncologist, which was very helpful, and ultimately decided on just doing chemotherapy alone. So we've been on chemotherapy, and by we I mean Britta has been on chemotherapy for about 2.5 weeks now. So Britta's on chemotherapy. So how does chemotherapy work? I guess logistically is a question that I've been getting. So every chemotherapy is different, but generally speaking, chemotherapy goes in cycles, giving people a drug regimen for one cycle and then repeating said cycle a certain number of times. And they can be pretty short times between cycles or lengths of cycles for things that are more aggressive, like leukemias and lymphomas. And then there can be long cycles, and in Britta's case, it'll be a longer cycle or a longer regimen, and then ultimately a longer amount of time on chemotherapy. So Britta's regimen is 3 drugs, procarbazine, CCNU, and vincristine. She essentially will go through 6 cycles of the following, okay? So on day 1 of a cycle, Britta takes CCNU once by mouth, and that's it. That's all that happens. And then on days 8 through 22, so 2 weeks of this, she takes another drug called procarbazine, also by mouth, every day at the same time every day. And when she's on procarbazine, she has some dietary restrictions, and essentially there's a lot of things on that list, but it comes down to no cheeses and nothing that has anything that could potentially have a living organism in it. Things like yogurt or some breads, for example, that aren't sterilized or processed well. And it's been hard for someone who grew up in Wisconsin, for Britta, I think, to be off cheese, but it is what it is. Fortunately, she'll end this part of her chemo cycle before Thanksgiving, so she'll be able to eat cheese on Thanksgiving. And then the third drug that she's on is vincristine, and vincristine is given IV twice per cycle on days 8 and days 20. Boy, help me out, brain. 29, day 29. So essentially the first day of week 4. And then we're off for 4 weeks after that, and then she repeats the cycle. So you do that, so CCNU day 1, procarbazine days 8 through 22, and then vincristine given IV on day 8 and once, and then given IV on day 28. And then wait 4 weeks, repeat cycle, and then do that 6 times. So that's chemotherapy. And we monitor her progress with basically MRIs, ideally probably every 3 months initially, and we'll probably do an MRI around Christmas time. And that's one way you can be praying, is that MRI around Christmas would show that we've had some regression of her tumor, or her tumor would just disappear completely. That would be spectacular. But that's not necessarily how things always work, but we can pray about it. I'm hopeful, that we'll see some response, and Britta has some good evidence, and I know certainly a great God taking care of her too, and I do hope that we see some regression of that. If we don't, then it's gonna be another whole conversation about what we're gonna do. But I think we will see some response to chemo, at least initially, and hopefully indefinitely too. Britta's still got a great chance of making it about 15 years on this regimen. You basically do these. You don't do the cycles forever. You only do 6 to 8 of them, or 6 of them. So you'll be, we'll be hopefully done with chemo a year from now or so. Um, but like I said, Britta's got a good chance of tolerating it and doing very well. So in terms of how Britta's done so far on chemo, Britta's just kind of felt nauseated. She says it's like, oh, I feel like I'm pregnant. And that's about it. She had a rash for a second, like an hour. That's about it. It's not too uncommon. Procarbazine, 25% chance to give you a rash. But in terms of tolerating it, doing super well. That's at least clinically how she's looking. And then objectively, we do labs every week when we're on chemotherapy. She may need help getting rides to get labs. Right now they're scheduled for Wednesday afternoons. I've got work has been very kind to me and it's given me some time to go do that. We're finding a way to maybe have me do some more research at the hospital and have a more flexible schedule too. So very kind there. Anyway, we get those labs because Britta can have a low white count or a low platelet count or a low red blood cell count. White cells obviously important for fighting infections. Red cells important for not having anemia and fatigue and carrying oxygen to your body, like your brain and heart and kidneys. Tend to be most the higher consumers of oxygen. And then platelet count important for things like bleeding. So yeah, so far so good. And I think people have been praying for us, and I'm grateful for y'all. And I know we continue to need and want your support. So yeah. So thanks for being there. Thanks for being patient with me and getting these videos out. And thanks for sending me emails. I read them all, I promise. I do, and I feel encouraged by them. And I apologize for not getting as fast as I want to. You can just pray for me too. Like, it's just been, I think I'm just prone to, like, I just find myself procrastinating and just a lot in my brain. And I think I just need to have clearer thoughts and spirit of getting things done. And yeah, I think things are getting better. You know, it's kind of like a newer normal again, and we're in the chronic phase of illness again. And I think things will improve, especially as we head towards the Thanksgiving and Christmas season. Hopeful anyway. I think they will. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge too in terms of getting this stuff socially. I mean, when you're on chemotherapy, pretty susceptible to getting sick. So Britta and Perrin have been staying at home mostly away from people. So I know if you want to, you can send Britta words of encouragement or hang out with her at home. Just wash your hands, and if you feel like you're sick, go away, or Skype or something, or do a phone call or whatever. Yeah, again, thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great evening and a great Thanksgiving.